And you can tune in to ABC News tomorrow from 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for full coverage of Pope Francis's funeral. In other news, the European Union has hit two US tech giants with major fines. Meta and Apple have to pay $1.2 billion for violating a new law intended to fight tech monopolies. The fine is the first of its kind to be handed out by the EU. Deutsche Welle correspondent Sina joins us now from Berlin. Hi there, Marie. What exactly is the reason for these fines?
Well, the reason is a new and in some ways groundbreaking digital law. The law is called Digital Markets Act, and it's meant to keep big tech companies like Meta, like Google, like Apple from abusing their power in the EU. Its goal is to give consumers control over how their data is used, and it's meant to prevent tech monopolies, so ensure that new businesses have a chance to establish themselves as well. And according to the EU, Apple and Meta have been breaking this very law. Concretely, the EU is saying that Apple violated this law because it restricted how app developers could communicate with customers. Apple prevented app makers from pointing its users to cheaper options outside of the Apple App Store, and that's why it has to pay 500 million euros to the European Union. And Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, is being fined 200 million euros because it essentially forced its users to pay for data privacy. So Meta's users have to choose to allow Facebook and Instagram to use their personal data to provide them with targeted advertisements. And the only other option is to pay a subscription fee for an ad-free version. So the EU here is using these fines to protect its consumers and to ensure that there's a level playing field among tech companies.
And what's the reaction been from Apple and Meta?
Well, it's not been positive. It's fair to say that. Apple has already said it will appeal the fine. It says that the EU is unfairly targeting Apple with this decision, and it complained in a statement that it has already spent hundreds of thousands of engineering hours to comply with the law, but that the EU keeps coming up with stricter regulations, keeps moving the goalposts, as they said. And Meta had some very strong words. Its Chief Global Affairs Officer, Joel Kaplan, accused the European Commission of targeting American businesses specifically. He said that the EU is allowing Chinese and European businesses to operate under different standards than American ones. So that's a pretty big accusation here. He also called the fine a multi-billion-dollar tariff obviously being kind of the buzzword of the year. The Commission spokesperson rebuked those statements and said that the EU doesn't care who owns a company and where it's located. They only care that companies play by the EU rules. So some tense exchanges there.
Yeah, so how does this move reflect on the EU-US relationship?
Right. I mean, tense exchanges there, and also politically, this is making a tense situation worse. The White House had a very strong reaction to the fines. It called the Digital Markets Act discriminatory, said that the law is a new form of economic extortion and a threat to a free civil society. And the White House has already stated in the past that it would consider hitting back at the EU if the EU targets American tech companies that, of course, lie at the heart of the American economy. So it could well be that this ends in a tit for tat, that we see some sort of retaliation by the US to hit European companies in return. And it's important to remember that the US-European economic relationship is already strained at the moment. The US imposed a 10% baseline tariff on the EU, a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, and 25% on cars only this year. So this fine comes at a tense time, and it looks like it's dampening the mood between the two economic partners even further.
Okay, Deutsche Welle correspondent Sina there for us in Berlin. Thanks for the details.